Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Over the weekend, we had two fantastic fights. One between Leigh and Maurizio Lara, which was won by Lara in 7 rounds. A come from behind stoppage, an enormous left hook from the floorboards that landed bang on the button, put Wood on his back. Wood got up and Ben Davison, Wood's trainer, threw the towel in. We also had a fantastic fight in America between Louis Neary and Azat Hovhannisyan. Absolute bloody war, which may well turn out to be the fight of the year. Don't miss this. It's on DAZN. Both these fights are on DAZN, but go and have a look at it. It's really, really good. Neary stopped Hovhannisyan in 11 rounds, but both these fights had that contentious ending, because in the Louis Neary Azat Hovhannisyan fight, some people were saying, well, the referee stepped in a bit too quick in the 11th round. The punishment that Hovhannisyan was shipping wasn't anything as bad as he'd shipped previously. In the case of Wood and Lara, some people are saying, why did Davison throw the towel in? There are only a handful of seconds left in the fight. You know, why not let him get to his corner and have his minute and all that? Look, so there are two contentious decisions here, and it raises the question, you know, when is it right to stop a fight? And the answer is that I think, first of all, you can doubt that there is a correct time to stop a fight, because ultimately boxing is about inflicting damage on the opponent. And I suppose if you want to define it in an ideal world with blue sky thinking, you would say, well, you want to stop the fight before a guy gets seriously hurt or runs the risk of being seriously hurt. But at the same time, you don't want to stop it before, well, you want to stop it while he's got something to give and while he isn't in any permanent danger. And of course, I mean, Christ, how long's a piece of string? You know, we can talk about how you define that, what the criteria is, until the cows come home. So let's take a look at both these stoppages, because I think both the referee and Ben Davison have got a little bit too much flack from people who want to see a great fight, who want to see should we say, a conclusive denouement to the fight, where you're absolutely certain one guy couldn't give any more and had to be stopped, or maybe he was just plain knocked out. What they don't want to see is a question mark at the end of each of these fights. In the case of Wood, at the time watching it live, I thought it might have been a bit quick from Davison. I didn't realise that we were so close to the end of that round. I think it's telling that Wood has come out. I mean, I'm not on Twitter, but apparently he's tweeted that he thought Davison made the right decision. He's had time to reflect and so on. Tony Bellew Tony Bellew made the point on the commentary, the DAZN commentary, that when the towel came in, Wood immediately turned to Davison and protested, meaning that he had his awareness about him. He had, there was some sense in his head. He knew where he was. His legs, to me, I don't think that necessarily follows that that was wrong to throw the towel in, though. I mean, I always remember, if we can all pick on tragedies that have happened in the ring, but if you think back to the Maxim Dadashev fight, which was several years ago now, and the Patrick Day fight, both of those fighters were killed. They both appeared to have their senses about them at the end. Well, not so much Day, because Day was knocked flat, but leading up to the knockout, he didn't appear to be in any extreme trouble. And certainly Dadashev, even though he'd shipped a lot of punishment between rounds, I think Buddy McGirt pulled him out. Nevertheless, he was still replying to the corner, and his eyes were relatively clear. In the case of Wood, his eyes certainly his legs looked rubbery, and his eyes didn't. And again, this is with the benefit of hindsight, looking at him, his eyes didn't look glazed, or they certainly looked glazed when he hit the floor, but when he got up, his eyes still didn't seem to be fully focused. You can be concussed and not even know it. Concussion is a strange thing, and it comes in different degrees. Neurologically, it's a cliche that the brain is the organ of the body we know least about. It's true, though. And people can, I'll give you an example. This is a horrible example, but I used to work for Securicor years and years ago, back in the 90s, and there was a guy who was putting some parcels on the back of a wagon. He got up, and one of those big doors, metal doors. He banged the side of his head, or the back of his head maybe, on the corner of the door, and he was like hopping around. Oh, fucking hell, that hurt, you know. And we were all laughing at him. He went home. He did his deliveries, went home, went to bed, never woke up. So you just never know what's going on neurologically. So bearing in mind that Ben Davison knows his fighter best, he's the one that's been privy to the training regime, and he understands about the fighter's body language. We all have tell signs. When we're distressed, we give away tell signs, physically and mentally. Obviously, Davison was going on the physical signs, but perhaps he did perhaps he could see into Wood's eyes, and he decided, hang on, something ain't right here. And so it is best to err on the side of caution. I love boxing. I've watched it for decades, but I don't want to see anyone killed. So better to pull the trigger a little bit too soon than wait until someone's popped you in the head, you know. So I think people have been a little bit harsh on Ben Davison, and I think a lot of that comes from the disappointment that Wood was doing so well in the fight, was winning the fight. I've heard a couple of people say he wasn't winning the fight. That's complete nonsense. He was winning the fight. I mean, that's not to say it was easy. That's not to say he wasn't taking punches. He was, but overall, over 3 minutes, if you break those 3 minutes down into 3 little individual minutes, 3 little individual contests, 2 out of the 3 for each round, Wood was winning. So for me, he was winning those rounds. I had him 5-1 up after 6. But anyway, that's a video for another time. I think Davison gets a bit of flack, a bit too much flack for that. And also, Davison is not necessarily the most popular people, so people are going to be easy to criticise anyway. Better to err on the side of caution, I would say. This was not, I mean, even though Wood was winning and then suddenly he got knocked flat with 1 punch, that disappointment shouldn't override the safety issue, the safeguarding issue. This is not a case of, you know, Howard Foster stopping George Groves in that first Froch fight, which was a way too soon a stoppage. Groves was buzzed slightly and was under pressure, but in no shape or form was he shipping punishment that in any way offered any kind of hint at permanent damage. But it was stopped quite wrongly, in my opinion. And even now, I think that's one of the worst stoppages I've ever seen. This, I would say, no, it's disappointing, but I'll give Davison the benefit of the doubt. Definitely. Now, in the case of the Lewis Neary fight with Hovhannisyan, this was a very different type of stoppage, because Hovhannisyan had been heavily floored in the 10th round, and he too was winning the fight, but he was taking a beating doing it. He was really having to earn the rounds. I mean, you think Wood was taking punishment against Lara, he wasn't, not compared to this. Hovhannisyan was taking a battering, and his face was a mask of blood and swellings. That's not to say he wasn't inflicting damage on Neary, he most certainly was. But in the 10th round, he was floored by, I think it was a left hook, staggered him, sort of separated him from his senses, at least separated him from his legs. And he bounced back into the ropes, smiled at Neary, and then Neary actually, a southpaw, stepped forward with a strong jab, which knocked, it sort of bounced Hovhannisyan off the ropes, and he fell onto his right-hand side. And he got up and he took more of a beating. Now, they checked in between rounds because he was in a bad way. Again, Neary himself had taken punishment, lots of it. But they checked on Hovhannisyan. The referee let it continue. The doctor let it continue. And there was an exchange. I think it was about a minute into the 11th round, where again, Hovhannisyan was landing good punches, putting the pressure on Neary. Neary wasn't taking a backward step. He was soaking it up, waiting and looking for his opportunity. And then he pinged another left hook, bounced off Hovhannisyan's head. Hovhannisyan, for a moment, seemed to freeze, and his legs sort of shuddered. And he did take a step back, which is an indication that he's hurt, because this guy wasn't taking a step back unless he was absolutely forced to. And the referee stepped in and said, no more. And people will say, well, you know, he wasn't any more hurt than he was in the 10th. And okay, that may be true, but that's not the point. The point is the guy had taken a sustained beating, even though he was winning the fight. Certainly he was winning. He won the middle round, certainly, and was still doing well up to the point of getting floored in the 10th. But he had taken this sustained punishment. And the referee, I think, was completely justified in stopping the fight. Because it was the type of fight where you were looking at, certainly looking at both of them, but you were certainly looking at Hovhannisyan thinking, this guy's taking too much punishment. It's a great fight. I mean, a really great fight. But you're thinking, no, they need to be keeping an eye on both these guys. And I wouldn't have objected if they'd stopped the fight between the 10th and the 11th round, because Hovhannisyan was just too brave for his own good. You've heard that. That's another cliche, but you've heard it. But it's true. Some fighters are, and they have to be saved from themselves. And even if you don't care about individual fighters and you say, well, they should be allowed to do what they want, I'm a libertarian, and all this crap that people talk. Well, okay, but there are bigger things, namely boxing. If you don't care about individual fighters, maybe you care about boxing. Because if boxing goes out the window, your entertainment's out the window. Okay, and if people are dying, it puts a black mark against boxing. So yes, fighters do sometimes have to be saved from themselves. And I think the referee did Hovhannisyan a favour. It's the first stoppage of his career. He lost, I think, 3 times before, but he can come back. And that's the point. He can come back. He can't just come back to the ring. He can come back to his family. He can come back. He can carry on living. So I certainly don't have a problem with that stoppage. And I don't really have a problem with the Ben Davison one. I think disappointment plays a big part in that. But it is such a difficult thing to call, isn't it? When you want a fight to continue, you want fighters to give their all, but you don't want to see them in permanent danger of being badly injured. God knows we've seen too many of them in the past. And also the punishment that you ship can manifest itself later in life. You can end up walking on your heels. You can end up punch drunk. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You know these things. So what are your thoughts on this then? What are your thoughts on those 2 stoppages? Do you disagree with me? If so, that's fine. So long as people can respectfully disagree with me, I don't mind at all. But leave your comments below, and we'll have a little chit chat about this. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you like the video, and I'm looking forward to reading your comments as always. And thanks for your time. So we'll speak again soon. In the meantime, bye for now.